Hello you beautiful people and welcome. Before we get started with this video, I want to clarify some stuff. This is the first time I do create a content and share it on YouTube. If you notice something inappropriate, wrong, or even if you have a comment can improve the quality of my content, consider sharing it with me. And also put in your mind that I am not a native English speaker, so you might notice heavy accent or mispronunciation. Please bear it with me. And with that have been said, let's get started. Today I'm gonna walk you through my Red Mage. This build is inspired from Final Fantasy series, where the Red Mage defined by a mage who can cast variety of spell as well as their knowledge of using melee weapon. So how this build will work in Elden Ring? Basically you are a caster, can cast both of incantation and sorcery spells, while being able to handle a close range combat with a melee weapon, dealing ton of damage. Starting with the stats, 40 in vigor and 12 in endurance. This is the minimum requirement for any build to have a decent survivability. 28 in might is must because we have to cast a lot of spells and Asha 4. 14 dexterity and strength to be able to wield some weapon. And for our main stats is gonna be 42 in intelligence and 40 in faith. The reason I have 40 on both stats is because we have staff and seal that have decent scaling on both sides. Now this build has two phases you can swipe between them. The first one, as you can see, is the full caster using staff and seal. This phase will allow you pretty much to play like a normal mage with much more variety of spell to cast and different type of damage. Although put in your mind that the maximum amount of damage you will deal with this build is around 800 to 1300, depend on the buffs and the talisman that you are using. As a caster you'll equip the Glimmer Glintstone staff, the Golden Order seal in your main hand. Both has the highest scaling at 42 intelligent and 14 faith, with 267 sorcery scaling on Glimmer staff and 321 incantation scaling on Golden Order seal. For our offhand we're gonna equip the Staff of Loss and the Azura Glintstone staff, and the reason behind that is we will gain the passive of the staff on our main hand staff by equipping them offhand, which means the Staff of Loss will give us 13% more damage to the night spell, and the Azura staff will grant us 14 imaginary dexterity, which allows us to cast faster. So the combo that we will use is a Glimmer Glintstone staff plus the Staff of Loss for more damage on Night Comet and Night Shard, which is gonna be our main damage, and the Golden Order seal plus the Staff of Azure for faster incantations casting. Here is the difference in the damage between having full sorcery damage buff from the Talisman and the passive from the staff, and without it. Moving on to the second phase, where you play as a hybrid character between melee and range. This is allow you to engage more aggressively on back of enemy or a single target. Normally this is how the build intended to be. As a red mage you want to be in mid-range to keep putting pressure on your enemy. For this phase you have a couple of options to go with. The first main weapon we're gonna use is the Sword of Night and Flame. This sword has the highest attack rating with 14 intelligence and 14 faith because it's scale on both of stats. The damage type split between physical, magic and fire equally between the types. What makes this weapon great and fit the theme of Red Mage is the special Asha 4 on it. It has two types of attack. The first one, it shoots a comet beam, deals 1500 to 1700 damage, and the second one, you swing the sword releasing a horizontal heat wave, can hit multiple enemy, deals 14 to 1600 damage. So on hand you have a high attack damage, and on the other hand you have a wave clear ability and a single target ability that deal bolster damage. The second weapon is a Clean Root Night Magic Sword with Asha 4 Glintstone Pebble. I do use this weapon in PvP. It's a great to roll catch player who are trying to run with 1 HP or 4 poke damage. In PvE I use it to deal with a big and slow enemy because it's hit fast and it has low recovery time, which is make me able to manipulate my enemy movement. The damage is not high, but consider how fast it hit, it will end up dealing high DPS on a slow enemy. And the main reason to use this weapon is that their trusting weapon is the signature weapon for Red Mages in Final Fantasy. Moving to the next one, we have a Claimant Flame Art Harpoon. For this weapon I like to put the Asha 4 Flaming Strike to deal with the Ganger and PvP. The weapon itself as a default has a physical with a little bit of magic damage, so I like to enhance it with the Flame Art to make it somehow close to the Sword of Night of Flame. Of course the highest attack rating on the weapon is gonna be fire, followed up by physical, then magical damage. I like to double stance this weapon with the Claimant Cold Harpoon And the reason I'm doing this is because when I broke ice build up on enemy, it deal health percentage damage, and the build up bar will start to decay slowly. However, dealing a fire damage to the target will reset the bar immediately, which allow me to build up it again. And this is why I like to double stance this weapon to deal a big damage in a short time. Lastly, I used Banished Knight Halberd with a Glintstone Bevel because it's great for PvP, for long range attack, roll catch and poke damage. As for the armor, I went with the Elbrush full set to fit the theme of Red Mage. It has cool looking with the red gem on it, and it's also had a goldish design. In my opinion, it looked like light armor more than mage robe. Also wearing Elbrush full set give us 20% damage boost for thrown spells like Prayers of Sin and Prayers of Punishment, which personally I do use a lot in PvP and some cases in PvE. It's very defensive tool and it's very useful. Otherwise you can pretty much go with any armor you like that don't put you on heavy rolls. Moving on to the Talisman, I do fill the weakness of this build by equipping Dragon Crest Great Shield Talisman because we don't have a lot of defense, so having solid defense allow me to engage without worrying getting hit. Other talisman needed is the Radagon Icon. This talisman gives us 13 imaginary dexterity, in case if you didn't know the dexterity raise the casting speed, so the more dexterity you have the faster you cast, and since we have 14 dexterity we must have this talisman. For more health, stamina and equipment load, overall survivability, I'm using R3 Favor +1. The last talisman that we will have is the Magic Scorpion Charm. Now this talisman works perfectly with the build because it boosts magic damage, which means every weapon, spell or consumable will get damage boost by 12% in PvE and 8% in PvP. But there is a downside for this talisman. It will increase the physical damage taken by 10% in PvE and 15% in PvP. Since we have a lot of magic damage on all of our weapon, it will increase our damage almost by 28 to 34 attack rating, plus more damage to most of our spells, which is great. Here is an example of the damage with the talisman equipped and without it. For more damage you can use Magic Shrouding Cracked Tear. It gives 20% magic damage boost in PvE and 15 in PvP for whole 3 minutes. The damage boost work like how it worked with the Magic Scorpion Charm. I personally use it on the Fire and the Magic Shroud version for more damage on my weapon and my spells. Otherwise it's up to you what to use on Wonder Physic Flask. For the spell that I'm using the Night Comet and the Night Shard. These are night spell and they get buffed by the Staff of Loss. Ancient Death of Rancor, I use this spell most likely in PvE and PvP a lot because it deals a lot of booster damage, and when you use it against like real players, either they're gonna spam rolling, try to run out from the spells and from like your damage, so you can have like a moment to heal or maybe also to shock an Estus Flask, or you can go all in and deal damage to your enemy. The Lava spell here is nice diversity of damage. Instead of having magic damage, I have also a type of fire damage. As you can see, I have a rolling magma. This is a treasure spell for in my eyes because I can use it as a trap, set it on the floor and run around it, or like deal with my enemy, trade with my enemy, and then the moment that can explode, it's gonna deal at least 1500 damage. The other spell that I'm using, Prayers of Punishment, this is very good overall because it has a lot of long range and it has also very good tracking, and it deal like decent damage for a lot of enemy. It has AoE damage. For incantation, I'm using the Lighting spell because it get boosted by the seal that I'm using, the Golden Order seal, and overall the Radagon Ring of Light, it have a large AoE and it has a lot of damage also. It deal between 1400 to 1600 depend on the situation. The other two incantation, I have them, these are like personal preference, you can customize them as you want. So the idea behind the Red Mage, it have a lot of diversity of spells. As you can see, I have here a lot of diversity of spells, and this is how I like to play the build. As for my experience with this build, I have 80 hours playing Red Mage, and I can say this is the most fun build I have ever played so far. I didn't feel that I have lack of damage except when I was in early game. This build felt a bit weak and not capable of doing a lot of things because I couldn't focus off any stat, since I wanted to have both of the faith and intelligent high enough to cast all the spells. So my advice for you is dedicating your room for intelligent or faith till it reaches level 40, and then you start to level up the other stat. Or you level up both of the stat to level 24 so you can wield the Sword of Night and Flame, which will be able to carry you through early game. Also, another downside for this build is hungry for mana. The build starts to shine around level 80 when you have enough attribute on intelligent or faith. What makes this build is effective and unique is how much pressure you can put on your enemy, and with consist damage you are able to stagger most of your enemy and deal ton of damage. For PvP, I don't like to tell how to play because everyone is unique and they have their own play style. However, I include an invasion and duelist in this video, and I will leave you to see it yourself. But before that, if you like this video and you want me to make more, please consider share, like and subscribing. And now I will leave you with the PvP. Enjoy!
beat you. I could defeat you with your hands tied and have you waking in the hospital like, who am I? Hey, who are you? Who are they? What is this? You wouldn't believe how someone reacts to this shit. The mind slips, slipping, speaking in tongues. Fly ink, GVA, that's how we get it done. That's how we get it done.